will start with C.S. Venkateswaran as a columnist. I would like you to talk about the various columns you used to write regularly, for Indian Express, then Madhurmi Weekly. So something about, the critic Venkateswaran as a columnist. Why not begin with your experience as the writer of that, column Rumble Strip? If you just explain the meaning of that term and then why you chose that particular title and about the column.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me to this conversation. I think I have written more articles as a columnist than otherwise. And writing columns in a way has been a kind of a training process for me, because you have some deadlines, you have some word limit. So you have to actually express your ideas, whatever you want to say, within a particular word limit, say 500 or 750 words, and also within a time limit. So this actually creates a kind of, triggers certain mental processes where you have to process your thought, your, judgment, your language, the way, how you want to present it, all within a few days and within a specific format. So I think it helped me hugely to actually train myself to write fast, to write precisely, and also to
write regularly.
Yeah, and also write regularly, because you're forced to write every week. Because I almost run Rumble Strip in Indian Express for 10 years, actually. That was
that was a weekly column, or?
It's a weekly column. It was a weekly column. Actually, it was made possible by one of my respected elderly journalist, N. Madhavan Gutti, who was the editor of Indian Express then. So while we are talking, because we used to see films together in festivals and other occasions. So once he asked me, why don't you write something for us? Then, then suddenly I started, and I thought of something, and I wrote that day itself and sent it to him, and I asked him whether it would be fine if it goes like this. Will this format work? Then he immediately published it, and then we stuck upon this, title called Rumble Strip. Basically, because it is a kind of Rumble Strip I thought it was a fascinating kind of, intriguing kind of term. And also it is a term which in a way, as it physically exists, it is a kind of speed breaker. You're going past everything through the highways. You're not noticing what is on both sides of you or ahead of you and all that. So Rumble Strip actually it rumbles you, it disturbs you in a particular way. It also forces you to slow down, look around, and then pass. So that is why the term, I found it very interesting, and so I thought I will have this. Suddenly struck me like we will have Rumble Strip as the name of the column. So Madhavan is also happy with it. So it ran for 10 years almost. Then later I also did columns for instance, I did a column for Madhurmi Weekly. Right. Then
which later became a book.
Yeah, later became a book, Cinema Ticket. Then we have another column for Madhurmi, Sunday magazine, which again became a book. Then I did a series of, it's almost like a column, like weekly column on Satyajit Ray's, scene. So that is how it is. Yeah, it really helped me to, because basically I'm a very lazy kind of person, very difficult to this thing. So I think it helped me to, focus myself and have some sort of target, time target, word target. Yeah.
Once somebody asked me to write a column. That too, not every week, but once in 2 weeks. I said yes, but later, thinking about it, I decided not to.
Actually, I also like, as you grow older, it becomes difficult, and also it may be like, I'm doing a column now in Deshabmani Weekly that is actually
on Malayalam cinema.
On history of Malayalam cinema. It's called Cine Malayalam. So there is once in 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
The sort of pressure,
Yeah. There is
You cannot escape that.
And you also have to maintain a certain kind of, because you have imagined it in a particular way and you want to live up to it. So
Yeah,
it's a pressure.
you'll have to have a sort of an overall picture of the whole thing. It's not just writing a column.
I know.
Something more than that.
It also gradually assumes a kind of character, and people expect certain kind of writing from you. So you also and also helps you to develop a style in a way. Yeah.
Right. You've also written books as such, and that too you used to write somewhat regularly, books or monograms for the Chalitra Academy.
Yeah.
Books like the books on Belatar and Solanus and Sanusi. That's also in a sort of a writing it
in a pressure
on demand.
Yeah,
Right.
But I always find it enjoyable, especially because because it gives you an opportunity to focus on the work of a particular director.
Right.
So in 1-2 months' time, you watch all films, watch again and again, read about them, and then write.
Right.
I think it is very, very interesting way in which you can work. I'm really used to these kind of, I like to work like that. So there is a kind of time limit, and also it comes out as a book immediately. So there is a kind of, you don't wait for the book.
I think that the first book of that type you wrote was on K.R. Mohanan for IA50 some years back, maybe in 2004.
Yeah.
For the International Film Festival of Thrissur. You wrote that book on K.R. Mohanan.
The
Malayali filmmaker. Apart from writing, books which could be somewhat like monograms, you have also written, full-fledged books. For instance, that book on Satyajit Ray, Prapancham Pratibalikunna Jalaganam. How do you translate that into English? Is it a quotation from Ray himself?
Yeah, it is a quotation from Ray.
Tagore.
Tagore, yeah. It's actually quoting Tagore.
Right.
But also their first meeting with Tagore and all.
Or something. Yeah.
Ray and his mother goes to meet Tagore. And,
oh yes, right. When he was a child. Right.
Yeah.
You are from Kerala, and I'm sure that you must have faced people attacking you for talking about Ray and not giving enough attention, to Ghatak.
Yeah, I think.
Have you written articles or books on Ghatak?
No.
No book on Ghatak, I know, but any article?
No, actually, maybe, no, I haven't written it.
Right. So I think that there is a similar attitude there in Bengal also,
Yeah.
This Rai Ghatak, kind of thing, I don't know which word I should use there. Even once my friend C.V. Balakrishnan told me that an incident when Ghatak was visiting the house of, when Rai was visiting the house of Ghatak after his death, some people had, criticized him on that occasion, so something about that. Those who are more politically conscious or more leftist oriented seem to be somewhat critical of Rai, and that too, placing Ghatak as the counterpart.
Yeah.
So what is your?
I think this, Ray
of having faced such criticism,
Yeah, definitely. Like one thing is like in the maybe the 70s, 80s, and all that. This divide or this, this polemics was much more stronger. You had the Ray versus Sen, Ray versus Ghatak kind of thing. Like just you had Adur versus Aravindan here. Like we have this kind of schools But through time, maybe also because of the fact that in those times, political opinions were much more, starker. And the divides were very clear, like about left, right.
In the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, so there was very, very clear kind of, political
Right.
orientations, and, there was kind of divides. And everything was much more, lines were very clear.
Right.
I think through time, perceptions have changed. And also, it has also not just the general political environment, we have also changed. In the sense, like, we also look at it totally differently now, because, the way in which I looked at Ray, for instance, has changed over the years. I think when I look back at Ray, I also used to like Ghatak much more, because we used to watch Ghatak more and more, discussed Ghatak more intensely those days. And that is the in thing, like if you're on the part of the left, you're supposed to be a Ghatak fan or Ghatak follower sort of thing. But through time, I think when you look back, I think these are different ways of looking at the world, different ways in which they were actually dealing with or exploring the world in their own times, in their own ways. And if you compare both of them, compare all of them, like Ghatak, Sen, and Ray, you can see different kinds of styles, different ways in which you express the world, and also sources of inspiration were different. I think you can look at them as a whole, like they give, three of them together give a wholesome view of the period, in a sense. Like, I think the cosmopolitanism of Ray and his influences from Hollywood and neorealism, Sen's a lot of influences from New Wave and the way in which he worked with cinematic form, a documentary style, and also Ghatak's huge epic mode of expression, the way in which he explored various Indian mythological or narratological methods. So I think in a way, they were three different ways of looking at the world, or expressing the world, and they were all deeply political in that sense. If you look back, you can see them actually expressing very deep political questions, both in terms of, for instance, from a very conventional leftist position, they were also looking at the way in which the state or the condition of oppressed was evolving in India, and also the idea of India itself was under question. If you look at Sen Calcutta trilogies, like if you look at the early Apu trilogy, then the Calcutta trilogy, and the last three films, you can see the idea of India changing, his style changing, the way in which he looks at the world changing. And if you also look at Sen from the beginning to end, you can see this evolution happening, where his focus changes, where his narrative style changes, and there is constant evolution of style and the way in which they are looking at the world. So I think when you look back at this age, maybe because one is also getting old, I think I don't find any contradiction in them. There is no need to be, if you're a Ray admirer, you need not be a Ghatak hater or otherwise. We used to travel together. Then gradually I was also planning to, resign my job and come to work in Odisha. Then John was one person who actually, was very cautious, very careful about my throwing away job in Bangalore and coming back. He said, don't do that. Find some other method. And he actually took the initiative to register me as a research student in Calcutta University. Because he's actually, care and love for me that actually finally, eventually helped me to pursue my PhD.